Hi class. I thought maybe you would appreciate a little bit more factoring practice. So pause your video at this time and go ahead and write down all these questions. Work out as many as you can, and then we'll come back and check our answers now. So I know that factoring can be challenging, and now that we've seen all the different methods of factoring, sometimes it can be very confusing as to decide when to use what. So hopefully when I scramble all of these, that will help allow you to practice. You'll kind of hear my thought process and whatnot. All right, so the first one, I noticed that it has 3 terms, so it's probably not grouping. I notice that there is no GCF between 213 and 7. I see that this right here is not a 1, and so I am going to determine that question 1, we're going to use that slip and slide method. And if you have discovered a method you like better, by all means try it and see if we don't end up with the same answers at the end. So I'm going to multiply this. I'm going to factor. 2 factors that multiply to 14 are either 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. The only way I'm going to come up with 13 is if this is a positive 14 and that's a negative 1. So that's my choice. So I'm going to go x plus 14 and x minus 1. I multiplied by the 2. At the beginning, I slipped the 2 to the back. So now I have to undo what I did and divide by 2. And then if it can be reduced, we're going to reduce it. If it can't be reduced, or if it's still a fraction, once it is a reduced fraction, we're going to slide that denominator right in front of our x. So 14 over 2 is 7. And then this can't be reduced, so we just slide that up to the front, okay? I think I used the word slide in there quite a few times. We slipped it to the back, and then we slid it back to the front. All right, number 2. I look at it, I immediately see that it's 4 terms, and so I'm going to factor this by grouping, which means that I'm going to GCF the first 2, GCF the back 2, and hopefully what's left in the middle in those parentheses match up. So I can take an x squared out of the first 2. I can take a 2 out of the back 2. This does match. So when the parentheses match, we group these 2 items together. And then we just rewrite that x plus 3 in the back. Question 3. You have some options on question 3. I notice this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. So we could apply that perfect square trinomial rule. The one that I kind of said, if you don't get it, it's okay. You can go about these ones in a different way, because really, what are 2 numbers that multiply to 49 that add up to 14? Well, 49 is 1 and 49, and 7 and 7. And if both of those were negatives, they would add to a negative and multiply to a positive. And if MyMathLab has a specific way you need to enter it, if they make you enter it like this, then please do that. If it does not matter, they are equivalent answers. All right, number 4. Gosh, that has an increased level of difficulty. The first thing I notice is there's a y in every term. The next thing I notice is that all 3 of these are divisible by 5. So I definitely have a GCF. That's what I need to look at every single time. So this one has a GCF. Let me spell that correctly, GCF. So let's pull that 5y out. We're going to get 3y squared minus 6y plus, oh, here you go. You can see your math teacher make a mistake. Let's pull some, as I'm going through this, I'm noticing, hey, maybe that isn't the GCF. So what's a bigger number that can even go into all three, and a bigger number that can go into all three is 15. So that's kind of brilliant. So 15 goes into itself once, 15 goes into 30 twice, 15 goes into 75 3 times, and wow, that is so much easier. And so now we're left with this. And then I have to check and see, hey, is there anything that multiplies to 5 that adds up to -2? Well, 5 is simply 1 and 5. And there's no way to come up with 2 by either adding or subtracting those numbers. So don't write prime. It's not prime. You did factor out that GCF, but that's all you can do. You have to check and see if you can factor more, but you can't, and so you're done. All right, next one. Again, I see that there's a GCF. So there's a GCF here, and there's one here. Because I want to have you get in that habit that every single problem might indeed have a GCF. And so what is it in the first one in question 5? It looks like it's a 2. We're not going to take a p out front here because there isn't a variable in the back, and that is only squared. So I know it's just 2. So 15p squared plus 16p plus 4. And there are no common factors there, so I feel like that's okay. And now I need to slip and slide and see if there's any way to come up with 16 from 15 and 4. And maybe there is, maybe there isn't. And so I haven't done this question since last semester, so I don't really remember if it works or doesn't. 15 times 4 is 60. Oh, but it does work because 6 and 10 make 16. And so I am going to multiply that and write p squared plus 16p plus 60. And then I am going to factor that because it's going to be p plus 10 and p plus 6. And if I multiplied by that 15 and slipped it to the back to come up with the 60, I need to make sure that I divide by that 15. These can be tricky. Again, if you want to try a different method, that's fine. If you multiply here, you need to undo what you did there. Because the only reason that we multiplied in the first place is that this is easier to factor than this. And so we do that so that this has a coefficient of 1. And now we're just going to reduce. So 10 over 15 reduces down to 2/3. I can take a 5 out. So that you can tell I'm kind of running out of space right here. So that 3 is going to slide back right here. So this is going to be 3p plus 2. Between 6 and 15, I can take a 3 out. So this is going to be 2/5, and that 5 is going to slide right there. So 5p plus 2. And if we multiply these two, we come up with this. And then if we distribute that 2, we end up with what we started with. So you can certainly go back and FOIL and do the check on your own to show yourself that it checks out. All right, last one has a GCF of 3. So we get x squared plus x minus 12. 12 has a lot of factors, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Since it multiplies to a negative, I'm going to have 1 of each. Since it adds to a positive 1, I'm going to choose these two factors, and it's going to be a plus 4 and a minus 3. And that's the end. So I hope that watching me do another 6 is helpful. Good luck on your homework and reach out with your additional questions. Thank you.